Yes, welcome to the Hoc River Committee on July 16th. Actually, it's July 18th. A couple of days. July 18th. We'll do something a little bit different here because I want to make sure this person can get back to where she needs to be on time. We're going to have public comment first. Since we only have one item. And we do have Ida Talala. Would you like to speak first? That way you don't have to wait till the whole committee. And I know you have another urgent appointment. Just want to accommodate you. So you come on up. And that'll give us time also for Councilor LaBonge to be here. I know he's on his way. And so why don't you go ahead for the record, state your name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Ida Talala, and I am the founder and coordinator of Echo Park TAP, which stands for Trash Abatement Project. I am here to ask the honorable members of the ad hoc committee to declare September as Watershed and Storm Water Awareness Month. Also to ask y'all to rally colleagues at City Hall, engage appropriate city departments and Angelenos so as to highlight the importance of conserving water, improving water quality, and reducing the impact of trash and pollution to our waterways. And I speak of this because we have a watershed that is important to the area. Also, I have this map, and I'm sure you're more than familiar, which is the storm drains. Mm-hmm. And one of them goes directly from the lake and ends at the 2nd Street outfall to the river. And I think that is, a major impact on the river. That's why I'm here to engage, because there's about 1,500 storm drains. September is an ideal month as the rains commence in October. Furthermore, September is California Coastal Cleanup Day, when the focus is keeping trash out of beaches and the ocean, as inland trash is a major polluter and our LA River is a conveyor of that trash. Watershed and Stormwater Awareness Month will reinforce California Coastal Cleanup Day. Watershed and stormwater awareness will broaden public awareness on harnessing precious water resources, as well as meeting clean water mandates. September is an ideal month for all Angelenos to come together to manage precious water resources, as well as working towards cleaner water coursing through our waterways, the LA River. Your leadership will pave the way. Please help usher this new era and declare September Watershed and Stormwater Awareness Month. And towards this end, Echo Park TAP has been able, through a grant from Office of Community Beautification, to obtain 2 solar Big Bellies compacted trash cans with an attached recycling unit that nobody can put their hands in and retrieve it and then just dump the garbage out. This compacts 4 times more trash than the wire mesh, and once it's installed in Echo Park, it'll look something like this.
Great.
Bright, cheerful, engage with a short message, and above all, keep trash not only in our community, but the LA River. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lam. Thank you for your advocacy, and my staff will follow up with you to see what it would take to put something like this together. I think it's important to remind people that everything that is dropped in the sidewalk and the street ends up in the river and then in the ocean. And that is a relationship that many folks still don't realize.
Thank
But,
you very much for
thank
the
you.
work that this committee is doing.
Thank you, Ms. Sala. Thank you very much. I did run into Councilman Labange in the parking lot earlier. He did say he was going to be here. Well, let's get started because it's already 3:15, and typically if you were in the university, we'd be walking out about right now if the professor didn't show up. So we'll get started. And with that, I want to thank you for being here and your patience. I say this every once in a while, the implementation is the least exciting time of great plans. Generating ideas, having discussions, community meetings are all good stuff. What we needed to do, we've done it. Now we're in implementation stage, and I thank you for your patience and your due diligence and making sure we're going to realize some of our objectives. So that being said, Madam Clerk, would like to read into the record, Smithsburg City Attorney, read into the record, CLA. It's Monday, isn't it?
Whatever seems to work.
I'm tired. Okay,
Rob
go ahead.
Credo with the CLA's office. A verbal presentation by the village gardeners relative to their efforts on the river.
Okay, so we have come on up. Item 1, please give us your name, please, and we're all yours.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Rick Ravens. I'm the president of the Village Gardeners of the Los Angeles River.
You can move the microphone closer to you. They can hear you better.
Okay. Once again, my name is Rick Ravens. I'm the president of the Village Gardeners of the Los Angeles River. We are an all-volunteer, nonprofit organization dedicated to beautification and restoration of natural habitat along the Los Angeles River.
And you're based out of San Fernando, right?
Yes, San Fernando Valley, Studio City in Sherman Oaks area.
Great.
We were founded in 1996, received nonprofit status in 1998. Then in 1999, through LA County's Adopt a Riverbank program, adopted a half-mile stretch of the river in the San Fernando Valley between Coldwater Canyon Avenue and Fulton Avenue. This is a heavily populated area with residential property on both sides of the river, with those properties facing the river. Now I'd like to fast forward to the year 2007, when in response to the devastation along the LA River caused by the incurable oleander leaf scourge disease, the village gardeners ramped up their efforts to revitalize their adopted LA River Greenway. Soon after, the village gardeners partnered with LA County on an Earth Day 2008 event in what would be the first of a series of ongoing LA River restoration events. Soon after, the village gardeners commissioned Catherine Sarah Associates to design conceptual plans for our LA River Greenway project we call the Valley Heart Riverwalk Greenway. That concept was presented to LA County's Department of Public Works in the summer of 2008 and received overwhelming support. That project is currently in planning with the county's Architectural and Engineering Division. Furthermore, county staff has received the go-ahead from upper management to process a grant entry in the California River Parkways Grant Program funded by Proposition 84 funds. I'd like to summarize our accomplishments with a slideshow at this time.
Okay.
These are, to start, these are some of the concepts that were created by Catherine Sarah Associates for the Village Gardeners. And this is what we presented to Los Angeles County in 2008 as part of the package of the project that we proposed. This is the steps to the Riverwalk entryway at Ethel Avenue, which would be the first improved pedestrian access way on the north side of the river for miles in either direction. There are no stairways, there are no ADA-approved ramps on the north side of the river for miles in either direction. So this is, and it's widely used by the community. Currently, these streets act like funnels from the surrounding community to get pedestrians down to the river. And they many times have to traverse the slopes to get down to, it's a service roadway, we call it the Riverwalk, along the channel.
How wide is this access point?
Well, this is conceptual.
Okay.
Okay, so, and it's right in the middle of our half-mile section.
Gotcha.
There's actually, on the north side, there's only one street that intersects the river between the two bridges, and that's Ethel Avenue.
Great.
This is just another, a different view of the same project. Okay, this is the Earth Day 2008 event we did with LA County and Carpenter Avenue Schools. I'm just doing a few slides from each one of these events just to give you an idea of what we've been doing and what our accomplishments are. That's a before picture on the day of planting. You can see there's 1-gallon containers along the slopes. This is an area that was devastated by oleander leaf scorch. Oleanders were planted in the mid-50s, actually in 1955 along this area by the then area residents along the river, shortly after it was channelized. And there was a tall hedge between 8 and 12 feet tall all along from bridge to bridge, and little by little it's been succumbing to oleander leaf scorch disease, and we've been replanting with all California native plants. It's also the day of planting. These are students from Carpenter Avenue School. This is a big Sunday event that also is in our adopted stretch. Took place in 2008. Students from Campbell Hall. There were students from UCLA along with village gardeners. We went along the river, approximately a 2-mile stretch from Fulton Avenue all the way to Laurel Canyon, painted all the white wood road barriers. We repainted those and cleaned up a lot of brush.
Mm-hmm.
This is another planting event. This is the Richard Lillard Outdoor Classroom in Studio City. This site was developed in 2003 by the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. It's been maintained by the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority and with help from the village gardeners. This is a part of the same planting event. You can see the LA River there in the background. This is a community picnic once again at the Richard Lillard Outdoor Classroom. In 2009, oh, there it is. This is Earth Day weekend. It was a 3-day event that the village gardeners committed to replant approximately 500-foot length project from Fulton Avenue Bridge to the outdoor classroom.
Wonderful.
There was approximately 150 volunteers for this 3-day event.
Wow.
This is a fall planting event, which was also in 2009 at the Richard Lillard Outdoor Classroom. We followed up and planted some California native trees. In 2010, we have what we called another LA River restoration event. And we went from bridge to bridge. This is all volunteers once again. The shrubs and trees overhang into the street, and we're impeding the flow of traffic. Normally, the city of LA does the pruning, and village gardeners started that last. There's before and after, same stretch. We did it from bridge to bridge on both sides of the river. Here's the 2011 city and the mayor's day of service on the LA River. I just want to point out on this shot here, we have volunteers on both sides of the river. We have been maintaining both sides of the river for quite a while now. This is a project from this year that we just implemented recently. Actually, we finished on June 25th. We call it People, Pets, and Native Plants project. That is a stretch that was also devastated by oleander leaf scorch disease. It's approximately 170 feet long. And this is what we started with. This is the day of the event. We had approximately 40 volunteers for that event. And that's the finished product. We put in a small retaining wall, treated landscape lumber steps, planted all natives, sycamores. There's an oak tree in the center and a number of shrubs and ground covers.
Really nice.
Thank you. And our events and projects are all funded through the generosity of the community.
Great. What a transformation.
This is one of the Adopt-A-Baskets through the City of LA's Adopt-A-Basket program. We've adopted over the years a number of trash cans for both sides of the river that we service on an ongoing basis. I want to continue on by saying if you'd like us to succeed, please support us. The Village Gardeners would like to ask if the Ad Hoc River could furnish a letter of support for our Valley Heart Riverwalk Greenway project, and including our Step to the Riverwalk for that project. And also, we'd like to ask if you would propose a council resolution in favor of our Greenway project as well. Last but not least, I'd like to invite the City of Los Angeles to partner with the Village Gardeners on another LA River Greenway project. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to
Well,
make
first, I want to say thank you to you and your group for the spirit and the time and the obvious contributions being made in such a transformation. And I'd be more than happy to put together those letters of support. This Councilmember Koretz's district?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll be working with him to make sure that he is very well, much aware of everything you're doing, and working through him and with him, make sure we write all the proper letters and work on the resolution, and we'll take it one step at a time.
Okay.
But I just want to say thank you so much for your hard work, and Jill Soledad and Lupe Vela can work with you on those letters,
Great.
and then we'll put that together.
Great. Thank you so much.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you for taking time. I know it's been a while since you've been trying to get on this committee, and I'm glad you're here today.
Yes. Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So there's no formal action on this item, so we can move to item number 2.
Item number 2, verbal presentation by the Science Collaborative relative to the proposed citywide initiative regarding the river.
I know Councilor Labange requested this presentation, but we'll be more than happy to make sure you're on the agenda, and then we can move forward, and hopefully he'll get here on time. Is he on his way, you think?
He's on his way for the policy and information.
Okay, all right.
I can wait.
Let's go to the third item, and we'll come back to you to make sure we make time for Councilor Labange. How's that? Okay. Well, thank Mitch from Councilman Garcetti's office for being here as well. Thank you, sir. So item number 3, we'll jump to item 3, and we'll go back to 2.
All right. Number 3, verbal presentation by the Bureau of Sanitation relative to an update on Los Angeles River related efforts. And I believe they've submitted a report as well. That's before you.
Do you need the slide? You don't? Then come on. Good afternoon, sir. Just for the record, introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's Wing Tam with Bureau of Sanitation. And I'll just give a brief update on some of the Los Angeles River-related activities this time. And one of the things I want to start out with, consistent with the Bureau of Sanitation in terms of stormwater, improving water quality, as well as implementing green infrastructure, our low-impact development ordinance. We're targeting completion or adopt basically implementation by early next year, and we're anticipating the council will consider the final ordinance sometime either late this month or next month. And as accomplishment, we completed the handbook to this ordinance, and it was adopted by Public Works July 1st of this year. Okay. And that handbook will basically provide all the guidance in terms of how you implement the low-impact development ordinance.
Great.
And thereafter, we're now have some meetings with a number of folks to get started to working on the stream protection that you are very interested in.
Great.
Okay. For trash TMDL, so far we will be 80% compliance with the requirements by September of this year. So very close to meeting our requirements, which is in 2015.
Great.
Yeah, and for the last 3 years or so, we've basically been collecting over 3 million gallons, 3 million pounds of trash from the El River.
Right.
From this. And some highlights for some stormwater green infrastructure projects. I'm not going to go over every one of them, but you have in front of you, if you want to have any questions, we're willing to provide you more details. Just to give you a flavor of some of the things we're working with, specifically green infrastructure projects. I'm going to break it up into some that are in construction and design. Currently, project in construction, the Gavanza Park is out in the Highland Park area, or northwest or northeast LA area, where we are putting in 1 million gallons underground cistern to capture water from storm drain and be able to use it at the park as well as infiltration. This is one of those ones where we want to reduce the amount of peak flow that gets into the LA River that will help with revitalizing the river. The other project that's currently in design that's adjacent to the river is the Humboldt neighborhood Stonewall Greenway. That's a property that the sanitation owns. We're currently in design, preparing plans, and we'll be looking at completing that sometime June 2012, and looking at the construction start sometime January 2013. Okay.
Great.
Let's move on to larger watershed. One of the projects we've been partnering with LA County on is what we call the Stratton Wetland project. This is also a continuation in the Sun Valley, where we are capturing over 1,000 acre-feet of stormwater so that we can infiltrate that water. And the schedule is a little bit further out in terms of completing the construction of this particular project. The other one that's closer to heart is the Albion River Park. We are currently developing a concept report, finish up the concept report, combine the park and the water quality elements together, and should be complete in 2 months. We've been working very closely with your staff and be able to finish up that report so that we could go after some more funding to implement this particular project. The other one that's also in concept stage is the Studio City Golf Course, which is what they call the LA River Natural Park. We've been working with Councilman District 2's office, and currently developing concept report at the direction of the Proposition COAC to be able to define the project, go look for some additional funding to.
And that's Councilman Krikorian's office,
That's
correct?
correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
As well as the other one's also Councilman Krikorian's office, Verdugo Hills Golf Course. So we're looking at developing those concept report for that.
Just pause for a second. I wanted to welcome Councilmember Tom LaBonge, who's joined us. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here.
Hi.
Please.
So a couple other ones is up in the watershed is the Venice Airport. We're looking at developing a concept where we take water from Bull Creek, divert it, and reuse it at a salt farm, which is owned by the LA Water Airport property. So we've come up with a number of projects, going after a number of funds, and I think one of the last one that we're really working on closely is what we call the rainwater harvesting program, where a while back we completed 600 installation of rain barrels in West LA, and we're currently testing another 600 out in the North Hollywood area to be able to look at different type of rain barrels. And once that's done, Sanitation and Water and Power is looking at partnering to find ways to implement that particular program citywide. Along with this is that one of the ones that's also important for us down the line is implementation of rain gardens, basically those small area where you could infiltrate water by resident or on the side of the road. And currently, we're working on developing sites out in the San Fernando Valley as well in South LA area for pilot testing to be able to look at ways to implement this on the citywide level.
Now, are these like, they function like swales in other parts of the country where they
That's
capture the
correct.
water?
That's correct. They're little
Okay.
swells. They're a little bit smaller size. You can handle like for example, if you look at a parkway between the street and the sidewalk, you could put in little rain gardens there to capture water
Right.
at the same time greening up the environment.
Great. And all of these measures are the incremental steps to keep the trash from going into the river, which helps heal the ocean and all of the ecosystems that are lying along our beaches, correct? The coral reefs and
That is
such.
correct.
So incrementally, we're making these changes. And eventually we'll have a bigger picture that'll say, wow, we went from here in the 1990s to today. So fantastic. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that.
You could just ask a
Sure.
couple extra questions on that, and I'm sorry for running a little bit late. On the check dams, the first check dam was designed by a DWP engineer out by the headworks there. And I absolutely believe there should be a check dam either at 7th Street or at 6th Street or whatever, only to clear pollution upstream in low flow days that sits there. Are we looking at anything in the, what would be the straits of the Los Angeles River, anywhere downtown for a check dam?
We're glad to look into that right now. There's a number of trash nets in the LA River.
In Long Beach. How do you think the people feel about us when it gets to Long Beach?
I agree.
I'd rather get it out sooner,
Right.
you know.
But yeah, there's number. I think county implemented a number of trash net upstream.
Got to put a
so,
check
yeah.
dam, because the other thing too, when you have a dam, then you see the water go from edge to edge, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's 3 feet or 4 feet. You see the water that go from edge to edge. Water that moves creates life. So
I agree with you. One of the things I do.
So how do I get the good Bureau of Sanitation to focus on that?
We're glad to look at it and
Okay.
report back to you. One thing I do want to mention, though, very consistent concept is that they didn't report on it, but we're working closely with Warren Power on potentially revitalizing that rubber dam they have at the headworks.
Right.
So it's a very similar concept.
Got it.
Yeah. So
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
The other thing too, on the North Hollywood Alley initiative,
Mm-hmm.
is it happening 100%? Or are you short money?
as far as I know, we're looking to find ways to make sure that we encompass the whole scope for that project.
So you're short a little.
Initially, you're right. It is short of money, but we're looking at number of sources how we could find more money to finish up that
Right.
project.
Okay, and lastly, I absolutely believe that sanitation should handle street cleaning in the future. I propose that during this budget season. As you mentioned, all the trash that ultimately ends in the ocean, it was one agency, and we had to study it, and I hope we could collaborate with Public Works and Street Services to focus on the condition of streets, but sanitation to handle trash all the way, I think will reduce it. And additionally, one of the other challenges taking place with the screens over the drains is they become little beaver dams, and they grow beaver dams because the dust or debris just cakes at the bottom base of the dam, and then they grow, and then it impedes. And we've had some flooding, so we'll look at that. But one of my initiatives for 2011-12 is to convince the city council that we should direct that from street services to sanitation, so you could all follow the trash
Okay.
on that. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tam. And the issue of having these to retain water to get the semblance of a water body in the channel for the purposes of cleaning. I know Tempe, Arizona has very large rubber dams. I think they range 13, 18 feet high, and they've actually created a water body that has stimulated all types of ancillary economic development activity. And that's a concept I think we need to continue working on.
Okay.
And I know Army Corps is working with us on that as well. So
Perfect.
thank you for your hard work, sir.
Okay.
What we did, Councilman LeBonge, is we skipped over one item to make sure you were here because I believe it was at your request. We wanted to
Right.
hear from a presentation from the Science Collaborative. And can you give us your name for the record, please?
Yes, Julia Rankin-Morandi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi. Thank you so much for having me here, and I want to thank Lupe Velli and Mary Rodriguez for making this possible. Thank you very much. I'm here to talk about a program that we're putting together with several partners, pretty major partners in the LA area, around the LA River, to really bring students and schools involved. So it's a comprehensive look at river programs and how we get all of these schools together and to really bring attention to and strong programs around the LA River. So we all know with the LA River, we have the watersheds for the Los Angeles River watershed, and we're looking to focus on schools along that watershed. And different pictures from the LA River, courtesy of one of my partners from FOLAR, the Friends of the Los Angeles River. As you know, this is the LA River, so most of what our kids see in inner city LA is this. Many of our students don't even know that is a river. They're not sure where the LA River is or what that thing is running through it. So how do we get kids involved and excited about the river, and how do we get communities to really help get students more involved? So that's the LA River. So there's a very important thing in education called place-based learning, and it's really about a sense of place, a sense of community, and how do we get our kids involved and feeling that they belong to something bigger than themselves. And there's a lot of research on it, and I just took a couple of research pieces here about how authentic experiences really do make a difference, and that besides enriching a sense of place, it develops academic understanding. And there are lots of research about how important it is in terms of the students really learning. This here was a meta-analysis, which is basically looking at 40 different environmentally based programs in 12 states, and it's very clear that scores are improved on standardized achievements in language arts, math, science, problem-solving, learning, all because of when a student is involved in the place, they get excited about it, they care about it. It doesn't matter if it's the park down the street or the LA River, but we need to find things that kids can relate to, especially in inner cities. Looking for tangible outcomes for kids, scientific research, they can do artwork, films, anything around the river, but we're trying to get them to feel, again, they're part of that community, and what can they do to help the community. Mm-hmm. The partnering organizations to date, the Los Angeles Education Partnership, I've been working with them for 3 years as a consultant. Watershed Council for Health has been helping, and we'll go through with the work they've been doing together. The Friends of the Los Angeles River, COSI West, and a new partner, CSU Northridge, and I'll talk about what we've been doing. So River Teachers is the name at this point. It can always change, but at this point we're thinking River Teachers. It's our way of uniting teachers around the LA River and training them and getting them to work then with their students and their community members.
Mm-hmm. They can go kayaking soon, too.
Yes, I know, and I'm excited about that. This is an example of like December 15th program we put together, and part of the program you see some of the partners. So we had LAEP, we had the Friends of the Los Angeles River, presenting on the socio-political aspects of the river. We had Edward Belden and Christy Morris from the San Gabriel, well, now they're the Watershed Council for Health, presenting with us as well, and teachers presenting. So it's been a collaborative effort that's been going on for a couple of years, and we're now trying to go to getting it to be a more formalized program that's endorsed by the council.
Great.
Another example with COSI West, we sponsored another program bringing teachers down to really look at issues around the LA River and plastics and all sorts of things besides the scientific investigations. In scientific, one of the main things we're going to do is we've selected schools, we have teachers that are interested, and I do have a handout in the back for you about that, and looking at one of the main things would be actually training teachers, and we've already done some training, but we'd have cohorts of teachers trained in how to monitor the scientific, really do scientific assessments of the river, water quality monitoring. The Watershed Council has been very helpful with that, doing trainings with us. We've taken teachers down to the river. We've collected different macroinvertebrates, little insects that live in the river, indicators of clean water, done water quality testing, bird studies, always involving scientists with our work and getting data. At this point, we are taking it to the next level with CSUN being involved. They have a wonderful program where they've been doing a training. I've been involved in the last couple of weeks where we're learning how to take the Google apps and the Google Docs, and so everything will be in this amazing cloud where we can connect. So if a school is connecting in one place down the river, they put their data into this database on Google's, and all of a sudden we can all see it at the same time. We can share data, we can make documents together. So they will be working with us to help train teachers and collate the data. So we can do scientific investigations. We also want to do socio-political issues, all sorts of issues that are involved with the river. So it's not just a science program, but we then want to get teams of teachers and working in their schools to develop interdisciplinary projects around the LA River. And again, through the Google Docs, we can connect very easily from school to school. This is an example of something 2 years ago, Plastics in the Environment, that we did with FOLAR's assistance. We had this presentation, this was 2009, bringing lots of teachers together to look at the issue of plastic. So it's that kind of thing.
Okay.
What's of interest to the teachers, and how do we get them to understand some of these very important socio-political and economic issues around the Los Angeles River. They can also examine historical significance, and we can, looking at this, here's the confluence where you had at 1900s versus today, and the difference of that river. And so those are the kinds of things that kids can study and schools can look at and get involved with, the channelization efforts and the efforts now to hopefully change some of that channelization.
Right.
They can research local heroes. They can get involved with local groups like the urban planning and river restoration projects, be involved with the master plan. So there's just so many opportunities. But what we're looking at is how do we unite these schools together so that we have a comprehensive program.
Fantastic.
And we're working together as a team so that the kids can picture this today and say, wow, can we really get to that? And how are we part of that? Can they do designs? Can they get in competitions? So it's really taking all of the work that people in this room are involved with and saying, let's have a program where we bring the students together and the schools together. And a very important thing kids have to do is service learning opportunities where they have to, especially the secondary level students, where they are really required for graduation, which is great, to do something in the community, to give back, to be involved. And it's a great opportunity. Here are some high school students from, I think it was Venice High School, working with students from inner city Los Angeles. A program we did a few years back, learning how to do field investigations. We've hosted other programs, like we've taken kids to the park and to the zoo, and now we want to focus on taking them to the river and doing days where the high school students are working together and actually teaching the elementary kids as an example of a service learning project they can do.
Great.
This is based on work that I developed when I was in Connecticut, a program called River to the Sea. It was a 6-year, ran for 6 years, funded by the state of Connecticut, and it brought together 10 different school districts together. There was a middle school component and a high school component. I know it works. I know how it works. We just need to really get some funding and some support to really do this.
Right.
So that's what it's all about, getting our
Fantastic.
kids outdoors and getting them really excited about the LA River. So it's just a perfect opportunity with this committee and what you're doing here.
Right.
And we have so many partners and more wanting to be part of this. And so it's like sitting down together as a whole and saying, okay, how do we put this together to really get the most out of our
Well,
program?
about 6 years ago, I believe, we had at the convention center, we had, how many high schools did we have? We had 14, over 500 kids, 14 high schools. And we started this discussion, and they started forming their own groups, and it was almost organic in nature. The Audubon Center has been very active in helping us identify the natural habitat. So there's a lot of traction, but I agree with you, there's got to be some way to create a focal point for the school district and the educational institutions, how we formalize this a little bit more and strengthen that fabric, if you will, and how we bring together all these different interest groups. And I thank you for your hard work. Any questions?
Yeah, I just would say, I think if we identify schools that are within a half a mile or less of the river and really focus where I'm just saying, like you start at Doris Place and you go up to Atwater Avenue, Glen Felix Elementary School, Rio Vista in North Hollywood, et cetera, and we identify them, and maybe we could do that as an action item, Mr. Ray.
That'd be great.
Just to identify the elementary schools, because everything costs money, but the closer you are to it, almost you recruit residents who are there. And certainly that would be a way to enhance it. How do you fund this?
Well, we don't at this point. It's been just, well, there isn't money. Right now we have no money. We're trying to get funding to support it, looking for different avenues. If we get a letter from you supporting and endorsing this, then it also helps and start looking for funding. We also have the Watershed Council has already started overlaying the schools along the river, matching them to the monitoring sites that they're doing.
Yeah.
We put in a grant, the Watershed Council actually put in a small grant with EPA to see if we can get funding to do some of this monitoring.
Well,
So
I
we're
think
just
if you visit
starting.
each council district along the way, maybe you could possibly get support
Right.
and do that. And what happened on September 4th, 1781?
I don't know.
Well, 44 people left the mission in San Gabriel because they were afraid to go to confession. No, that's not true. They left the mission to come and form the city, which this year will be 230 years old. So I don't know what date we pick, Ed, But I also think that, they do have a walk from the Mission to the Pueblo.
Right.
Originally, it was the river. If the river wasn't there, we would have all, they would have stopped in Santa Monica, and Santa Monica would have been Los Angeles, or whatever it would have been. But it's the water, it's the river. We have to get a current date, and I know school, sometimes, I think they are starting earlier, we have to have a river week, like we have other weeks, and then get schools involved on that.
Yeah.
And maybe, what's the name of the new high school mascot? Sotomayor
Sotomayor.
River Rockets or something? I don't know. I think if we tie it to the river, it helps, something
Yeah,
to
no,
think
there's-
about. And I
There's
know that-
discussion on having river-related
Yeah.
science,
Yeah.
ecology, et cetera, so that's going to
Just
be
an idea.
exciting.
So
That's a
please,
great
with
idea.
our officers, Mary,
Yeah, and we have a lot of schools that are already interested, and I've been meeting with some of the teachers and just trying to get their support, and they're excited. So we're looking at, we're thinking to be realistic to start maybe with 10 schools, 10 high schools. We train them, and then they adopt the elementary and the middle schools as a first step, since we don't have funding at this point. But
But I think
We'll get-
a dialogue with the school board is important.
I've been talking with them
Good.
as well. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for your hard work. There is one person who wants to speak on this item on public comment. That's Noel Weiss. Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir.
The clock is not working, so I'm just going to go like this when you're
Okay, just beat me upside down. Council members, good afternoon. As I was hearing the presentation, obviously we're looking for ways to unify the city. My suggestion for consideration of the presenter as well as for the council is to consider ways of involving the neighborhood councils, because they have their money, $40,000 this year, whatever, and we're in a position where we can matching grants. Downtown Neighborhood Council, for example, on planning, was able to leverage $5,000 into $20,000 to try to make that community a little bit better. I think in terms of trying to get the neighborhood councils involved, if we're really interested,
They're already involved.
well,
Everyone in my district is.
well, okay, that's great.
Okay.
Okay, but now let's.
How about your district?
Am I running for anything?
No, but I'm just getting involved.
I don't know.
You're repeating the obvious. People
No.
are involved
Yeah,
on it.
you know something? Nobody said it, Mr. Lavange, and you didn't say it in connection with your discussion with this woman. And the fact of the matter is that it's important that we get the neighborhood councils more involved, specifically in terms of trying to attract the schools, attract the principals, attract the kids, attract the ideas.
It's a great idea, Mr. Weiss.
Okay. And secondly, in terms of rather than just limiting the schools to the ones near the river, I think we need to unite the city in terms of having the inner city schools, such as the schools in Watts, for example, partner, if you will, particularly through the internet now, with those schools near the river and begin to work through those various alternatives and not just stovepipe this vis-a-vis district by district, but look a broader perspective in terms of the overall city. That's basically my suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss.
And I'm hoping that, we can get behind that in a more direct way. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so that takes care of 1, 2, and 3. We'll move on to item number 4.
Number 4, Planning Department, Bureau of Engineering, CRA, reports relative to the status of river-related projects. So whichever one you want first.
Well,
Do them all at once?
yeah.
Okay.
Coming up, folks. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Let's see. I'm gonna load this PowerPoint. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Jane Choi, and I'm with the citywide policy unit of the planning department. Claire Bowen, who is the manager of the river unit, is out of the office today, so I will be
Okay.
updating you on 3 of the initiatives that the department has been involved with. More
Thank you.
recently. The first is an update on the Cornfield Arroyo Seco specific plan. And as you know, the CASP area is one of the opportunity areas of the master plan. And the department has been working for quite a few number of years to establish the specific plan. And more recently, we have been working with the CRA to establish the redevelopment project area. But with the recent state law enactment, this activity is on hold, and you'll hear more about that from the CRA report. But the department is still committed to move forward with what we are able to do. So we will be releasing a draft EIR for the plan and the project area in the next few weeks. in late July, early August, and we will be holding a public workshop in September in the Cornfields area to hear feedback about the draft DIR.
Great.
For the Northeast Los Angeles study, the CRA received a $500,000 Sustainable Challenge grant in late 2010, and we were going to work in partnership with them for a targeted update of the San Fernando Road area in the Northeast LA community plan for job-generating uses. It would have began this month, but because, again, of the CRA activity at the state level,
A slight glitch.
it's still on hold.
Okay.
And the last update is on the River Improvement Overlay District, which it's been a while since we've brought the RIO to this committee, but the RIO is the Los Angeles River Improvement Overlay is part of the implementation from the master plan, and the purpose of it was to improve ecological health, to conserve water, to really create the river and transform the river as a community asset. And we originally came to this body, as well as in the past to our City Planning Commission back in early 2009, with a draft of the ordinance, and council approved it to go to the city attorney's office for review in April of 2009. And the intent was to move from a less inviting environment, a place where there isn't a lot of access for pedestrians and bikes,
Right.
to the river, to a place where native species can grow. There's safe access. There's walkable communities next to the river. And
One of my mantras has been, if I may, is to convert our backyard into our front yard, and that's been doing that for.
Exactly. So
It's catching.
just for a little bit of review, the original RIO, there were two documents. One was the River Improvement Overlay, which was more of an administrative enabling document. And then each riverway or waterway would receive its own design standards and guidelines. So the LA RIO, the Los Angeles River Improvement Overlay, was the first enactment of the RIO.
Right.
And an applicant would be able to comply with the RIO by achieving 10 points in the watershed category, 5 points in urban design, and 5 points in mobility.
Great.
And we created this document that lists how applicant can choose to achieve all of these points. And there were complete street standards and guidelines that followed it. So in March of last year, 2010, we received comments back from the city attorney's office that raised concerns about the RIO as it's written being too vague and being difficult to, it would be difficult for us to determine whether an applicant is complying with what's been written. So, and within the year that the LA RIO and the RIO were in the city attorney's office, there were numerous ordinances and city plans that were passed that met achieved some of the issues that the RIO was trying to answer, such as the citywide design guidelines were adopted by the City Planning Commission. The California Model Landscape Ordinance was also adopted by the city, as well as the Low Impact Development Ordinance. So the city's planning department staff stepped back and took a look at what we really want to focus on in terms of what makes the river unique and what qualities do we want to make sure get implemented with projects and along the river. So we focused on these, the list of purposes that you see up here. It's still to provide safe access to the river, to provide a habitat for natural species, native species. So we decided to take a different approach where we have, it's still a requirement for properties within a mile of each side of the river to follow limited standards that include landscaping, screening, and lighting. And the inner core properties, which abut the river, basically would have additional requirements. So,
Right.
so from now on, the RIO itself has all of the design guidelines and standards that all riverways and waterways will need to follow. And it actually makes it easier to establish a RIO for some of our other waterways like Arroyo Seco and Bayona Creek and Pocahontas Wash from this point forward. So City staff has moved forward with initial public outreach, and we've gotten positive feedback from groups like Plan Check NC and some of the other groups that we've been meeting with. So we will be circulating the ordinance and the report and the CEQA documents late this summer, which in like the next month or two. And then we plan on going to the commission and also to this body and the full council.
And your staff has the capacity to do that within this time frame? It does. So I know you're also struggling with the personnel and lack of, so.
That's why it took us so long to get back to
No
this
problem.
body.
Okay, so you're not recreating the wheel, you're collapsing a whole series of standards and guidelines based on other ordinances.
Right.
And that'll be the body of this Rio.
Right.
And we'll hopefully get sufficient input so we can make it a uniform body of language for the whole corridor.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And here's Claire's contact info. And she comes back.
Great.
She's available.
And you did a great job, too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Next group?
Just a quick thing on that.
Yes.
How do you share that with the rest of the city? That report, do you have for a variety of groups and to share what your commitment is?
Yes, we've met with, first of all, with Plan Check NC, which represents multiple neighborhood councils in the city, and we've continuously done outreach and plan to do outreach to all of the neighborhood councils to make sure that everyone's on board. And we've also spoken with some of the leaders who've been involved in the.
You have it on the River website as well?
Yes, yes. We will make sure to put it up there.
River website and the planning website as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Matt. How you doing?
Neville, planner at CRA, going to give you an update on redevelopment in general and also the two new redevelopment project areas. As you may know, the governor signed a budget on June 29th and eliminated redevelopment agencies for now unless cities pass an opt-in ordinance by October of 2011.
Which we are working on.
Thank you very much for that. My landlord thanks you also.
You're not an aberration.
We were in the process of identifying additional funds to work with the River Revitalization Corporation to identify a site in our central industrial project area for remediation, acquisition, and development. That is on hold until our contracting authority is restored. So for right now, we're still alive, but we can't take out any new contracts
Gotcha.
unless and until the opt-in language happens.
Right.
So for the CASP redevelopment project area, the EIR is already underway, taking a look at the CASP specific plan, which should be before the City Planning Commission in fall or winter of this year. The boundaries of the CASP redevelopment plan area have been realigned to be coterminous with the specific plan, so they will be the exact same geography. There had been talk about taking a piece out and putting it into a different project area, but
Right.
we're not going to do that anymore.
Okay.
It'll be easy for everyone to understand. But a lot of that work is on hold right now because we can't do any blight analysis because of our lack of contracting authority.
Gotcha.
For Northeast LA River project area, again, most activities are related. Most activities are suspended until, unless and until the opt-in ordinance is passed. But a lot of the grant award documents to receive the HUD grant were already executed, so that money is
Right.
not endangered. We'll begin reporting on the activities related to that starting August 1st, per the grant guidelines.
Fantastic. And just to share with you, Councilman Labange, the CRA's skill sets, the toolbox he brought, has allowed us to move many of our projects to where they're at today. And so we need to work hard to make sure that we keep the CRA intact and to continue doing the multiplier effect that you will do and have done in the past when it comes to the economics of the city. So thank you so much.
Remember the project areas, we had to return money to the state, like $8 million or $10 million from North Hollywood alone. And I don't know what the full accounting is throughout, but it's several.
$97 million in the first year and $45 million
in the second
every year afterward.
So you've been briefed on
In
that?
perpetuity.
Yeah, no, we've been taking some big hits.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your hard work and your tenacity, and don't give up. Okay. Does that cover? No? Dr. Armstrong, Bureau of Engineering? Come on down, guys. Can you please, for the record, give us your name?
Good afternoon, Councilmember Carol Armstrong, Bureau of Engineering, LA River Project Office.
And Larry Hsu.
All right.
We submitted a written report, a regular progress report. I'm just going to talk about some of the highlights. One of the established organizations recommended by the LA River Revitalization Master Plan is the River Cooperation Committee. That's the governmental arm, the partnership between us, the city, and the LA County Flood Control District, along with the Army Corps of Engineers. And at those meetings this year, we have approved a number of projects. The committee last approved the River Revitalization Corporation's North Atwater Bridge Crossing project, and they also approved a county project, which is the Headwaters project out in Council District 3. Our next meeting of that group is going to be on October 3rd, and we will be hearing a variety of projects. I believe it's the project that Rick Ravens mentioned earlier today, the Valley Heart project will be the county's,
Right.
and we are still looking to find a good city project to have the group consider at that time. I also wanted to mention that we have been having regular meetings with the Army Corps of Engineers about our projects, including the LA River Ecosystem Restoration Feasibility Study, which Larry's going to talk about in a minute, and our bow tie project, which is owned by state parks. And we're really looking forward to having those projects go forward, although there are some challenges at the federal level, as you know. I also wanted to mention that we commented on a Department of Toxic Substances Control report for a project along the river. It's public information, and it's an opportunity for us to kind of look at what the state plans to do regarding some of these river parcels. And then we also participated in the Mayor's Day of Service on April 30th. We wanted to thank you, both of you. We wanted to thank the committee and, of course, the mayor for doing a fantastic job and bringing out thousands of people to the LA River on that day. The largest event ever on the river. Had so much to do with FOLAR and all of our river friends who've been working on the river for years. It was a great, great opportunity to see some real success and to bring in a lot of new friends to the river.
So what kind of day was it?
Well, it was a riverly day.
There you go. All right.
I would say it was a super riverly day, actually.
Okay. Pizza Carmen Gedden Day, or Carmen Miranda Day, or whatever we had yesterday.
Yeah. And then I would also say that we're really, really excited about the pilot boating program that's going to be happening because of the work that you have done. And it's awesome that it's about 1 year since U.S. EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson called the LA River traditionally navigable. So about 1 year later, we're actually going to have that, and the LA Conservation Corps is doing a great job pulling together the team. We were happy to help with some of the clearance through the Army Corps process, and we will continue to push and support that. It's a great opportunity. Other things I wanted to mention is that BOE was able to secure about $250,000 in CDBG funds for the Aliso Creek Confluence project that is being led by the Trust for Public Land. And I wanted to mention that we have approved river access for MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art, which will be doing the LA River Ramble in the evening of August 4th. They're going to be visiting the 6th Street Bridge area and taking some new folks down there.
So I know you and Lupe and everybody else have been working hard on this.
Yes.
So good job.
Who's that going to the 6th Street Bridge?
It's MoCA, the
Artists.
I'm sorry, when?
Right, artists. You know, one of the things on the art we mentioned, Ed, is I know there was others in the past. I had no problem with art on the riverbank, but some people had problems with art on the riverbank because the art may become, quote, historic fabric to the river, which would prevent you from removing concrete. I don't know if that corridor with railroad could ever be removed. That's why I'm pushing check dams. But also at the same time, art is interesting, and there's a guy, PJ or somebody from Paris, who's doing big things all over town.
But I think that speaks to, and we were very, how can I put this, matter of fact about this group of multi-jurisdictional bodies who are having meetings to discuss how we decide as a unit so we can move projects. And that's probably one of those public policy discussions we should have, because I know there's been the discussion of what our art policy will be for the corridor. And I think you're right, Tom. I think we need to designate places where we could create sanctuaries for art that can exist without impeding future improvements. And so that's the discussion I think this multi-jurisdictional body should be engaging in. We'll work on a motion to that effect, but that way we can make it more official. I've been trying to stay away from it just until we get our feet on the ground, we develop our relationships, and we have a dialogue that is constructive amongst these different groups so that we could move forward. Otherwise, it becomes almost like the Clash of the Titans. Everyone just starts, it becomes a tug-of-war, and that's what we don't need right now.
But even the air pockets on the heavy cement faces have holes that, forgive me for my lack of correcting the type of plant that flowers there, but I know you know it, Doctor. And what do you call it?
Fountain grass.
Maybe fountain grass with the little fur at the end. It kind of cuts your fingers if it's too sharp. That fountain grass adds to it as well, but sometimes then we, maintain it like you cut weeds every year. So there's much that could be done. In addition to that, we'll have a motion in September, Ed, for duck tours. If you've been to other cities, like in I call it the St. Charles, but it's the Charles River in Boston, they have duck tours. I think it's time for duck tours. Working with Miss Perry, Mr. Weezer over the years, I helped bring hop on and hop off tours, the double-decker buses downtown. We get a duck tour going from Alvera Street to the 6th Street Bridge, down Thunder Road, and back. We'll bring a whole element of people, which is very pleasing. So, Dr. Armstrong, you do a great job, and your assistant right there does a good job, too. He's always so talkative.
Mr. Shu.
My river brother.
Mr. Shu.
Roommate.
The River Brother. All right.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. We're looking forward to that motion. That's exactly the kind of thing that the master plan calls for, so we're excited about that. The last thing I wanted to mention is the Urban Waters Partnership Pilot. As I think everyone here knows, I'm just going to reiterate, but the federal government chose 7 nationwide urban waters pilots last month, and the LA River is one of them. So we're super excited about that. They're holding a meeting in Washington, and it's very much in line with what the president wanted to do through the America's Great Outdoors Initiative. So I just want to say, great job, everybody. That shows how well Los Angeles has been doing in attracting that federal attention. And now I think everybody really needs to think about what we can ask the federal government for moving forward. And one of those is completion of our Army Corps study.
Right, exactly. Mr. Shu, I know you have.
Right. So the update on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers LA River Ecosystem Restoration Study. This is the study that's the 10-mile reach between roughly Griffith Park, Verdugo Wash area, all the way down to downtown to First Street. As I reported last time, we did not receive federal funding for fiscal year 2011. We need about $2.6 million to complete the study. And our existing funding will carry us in the work that we're doing on the study until about October of this year, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Our target for completing the study, ideally, is to position ourselves for language to be inserted into Word of 2013.
Right.
So that's the goal. We've had a number of meetings at the project level, at the management level, at the executive level with the Corps. Trying to secure resources and create, talk about creative ideas to try to move forward.
Well, I know my office, I have been speaking to some of the representatives of the Obama administration, trying to get that singular directive from his administration to get past this barrier. I do know without this study, a lot of this work almost comes to a standstill. So that is a pivotal point for how we implement. Department of Water and Power has been very supportive. They'll be working with us, and I don't want to steal their thunder. They have a report too. But I do know that there is a concerted effort to get past this barrier, and I want to thank all the officers for the support, and obviously for your tenacity in keeping this thing moving, and let us not lose momentum. So anything else on that, Mr. Shu?
Yes, we have just a couple quick reports on some of our ongoing projects. North Atwater Park Expansion and Creek Restoration Project, that's the project in construction.
Great.
They're roughly at 50%.
Congratulations.
They're on target to schedule a ribbon cutting sometime early next year, 2012.
Great.
Sunny Nook River Park project is, we are still working towards the lease. We have a board date for Rec and Parks Board, at least tentative, August 10th. So hopefully, once that occurs, we keep
it's the next level
towards a bid project by the end of the year.
Great. Well, thank you both for your hard work. Appreciate that. Okay, that also is no formal action on that one. So let's move to the next item, sir.
Actually, there are reports on this item. Do you wish to note and file the report?
Yes, note and file is fine.
Thank you.
So number 5, Planning Department report in response to council action relative to the 2010 bicycle plan, which includes 32-mile Greenway along the river.
Okay.
Once again, Jane Choi with the Planning Department Citywide Policy section. So the bicycle plan was adopted by the City Council on March 1st, 2011, and we have a final copy, which we'll provide to
And Tom was there.
council offices. But one of the primary policies in the bicycle plan is to build bicycle paths that are separated from the right-of-way along our riverways.
Right.
The Green Network which consists of bicycle paths, includes 139 miles of bicycle paths, of which 32 is the LA River. So some of the programs we wanted to highlight there's a specific plan that calls out the prioritization of design and construction of the LA River bicycle path, as well as being mindful of the historic features on the bridges that cross the LA River, especially when they're retrofitted or designed again, and we want to include bike facilities on them. And a couple updates. One is that this is actually for DOT. They submitted a Metro Call for Projects grant for $3.5 million for the headwaters section between Owens Mouth and Mason in the valley, and they're one of the finalists in the Metro Call for Projects, and so we should be hearing about that soon.
Great.
Lights were installed along the bike path by Bureau Street Lighting on phases 1A, B, and D of the LA River bike path project.
We still have the copper wiring too, right?
Yeah.
Solar, right. No, they're solar.
Some
They're
of them.
solar.
On-
Most of them are solar.
Well, we did have the unfortunate event that happened.
Right.
Some of the lighting. And we're constantly looking for more opportunities to get more funding to complete the bike path on the LA River. So we're exploring possibly applying for the Tiger 3 funding coming from the federal government. So.
Fantastic. That will be a note in file. Thank you very much. Our next item, sir?
Number 6, DWP quarterly status report relative to right-of-way maintenance along the river.
Okay. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Kelly Bernard with Department of Water and Power. We presented the quarterly report regarding our maintenance schedule to the city clerk. It's you can note and file it. We are honoring our commitment to maintain the river and the properties along the river, the DWP properties along the river.
Beautiful. These are the stretches of land under the transmission line.
Yes.
Right.
Our power systems group is the one who provides the service to us. Other updates, as mentioned, we've been in discussions with your office and with BOE about the department supporting BOE's effort to get the study done, the Army Corps study done quicker rather than later, and so we are working through that. My general manager is presenting a second round of budgets to our commissioners tomorrow. And so, again, every week it seems like there's a new budget out there. So depending on what happens tomorrow, we'll see what economic development looks like.
But I do appreciate the fact that this concerted effort to have a focus in D.C. to lobby for more funds for the study and for the river corridor and all the water-related issues and power.
Absolutely. We have our an RFP out for a new lobbyist for the department, and as part of that contract, it will include efforts to lobby on behalf of the LA River, and we hope to have that contract awarded and finalized by October or November of 2011. So
fantastic. That's
yeah,
very much needed.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or anything else like that, Councilman? Okay, so we will note and file on this item.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Great job, Ms. Kelly. All right, and item number 7.
Number 7, motion Labange Garcetti relative to non-motorized multimodal bridge project connecting Griffith Park and
Great.
the river bike path.
Who could put this in the DVD? Good, Joe. Thanks a lot, Joe. Mr. Reyes.
Sir.
An opportunity in 1988 came for the first time. Mr. Bradley's administration, the Amundsen Foundation came forth and built the police facility there in North Atwater. Another foundation now is coming forth here. I'm interested in helping them. When people have an interest in doing good for the city, we'll do good for the city. So that's what this is all about. I'd like to schedule this in the next meeting, and in the next month, work with the departments to try to expedite all things to help this move forward. So to come back to your committee.
Great. One of the I think this is.
Don't hit it yet, the left.
Do you want to go ahead and
No,
go through
no,
it?
I want to speak and then we'll,
Okay, well, I think this is a tremendous opportunity. I agree with you. I really want to see us support this. I believe this is the bridge project, right?
right.
And we're looking at how we can accomplish this. I think one of the strategic steps we can take, because this will end up in Public Works and Budget and Finance, I imagine, that we allow the departments to come back to this committee and tell us what kinds of services they would need to provide so that we can assess how we can move this forward. Because eventually those questions will be asked in Budget and Finance and in Public Works. And if we can give them the best shot to posture themselves in a manner
Kelly,
that
wait a minute, I
address-
want you to see this, Kelly. It's hold on a second. Okay.
No. So that would be, from my point of view, how to help them make that presentation and
What
how
I'm
we
going to
get
do is
there.
be with the foundation and the affected department and say, what is the challenge that the department has, and see if I can knock down their challenges to help
Yeah,
encourage.
and that's something I would like to see in this committee that can come back and do that. That'd be
Right.
great. Go
I'm
ahead.
going to try to knock them down and then come back to your committee as the district councilman.
Okay.
Trying to push that. But you could hit this here. This is just a little ice cream, ladies and gentlemen. So you got to turn it loud there, Joe.
Is Elvis involved?
Elvis ain't involved, but it's close.
Come on now, Tom.
Can you see that, everybody? Can you see that? Turn that up loud. Well, we're going to get the volume right now. Hit stop right now.
Okay.
Hit stop and go back to the beginning. Who knows how to get the volume up?
I think you need a speaker to get it loud enough.
Do we have any kind of speaker? Okay, I'll do this. Is the opening. This is Thunder Road. Do you want to say anything?
I don't know if that's going to do much.
Put it right on the speaker.
What I did is worked with someone who's much smarter than I, a person under 24, who knows how to work all this stuff, and we clipped all the scenes of the movie. There's a little music there. This is Thunder Road from Greece. Go back to the beginning if you can. Do you know all these movies, Ed?
Yeah.
You wait up at night at TMZ or TBS, Turner Broadcasting Network. Watch the open.
But I don't know how to get volume.
Just put it on the speaker, though.
Take me to the river. Here. And this is Blue Thunder.
I hope they clean that up.
Yeah, they did. This is them. This is a tough one. This is James Arness. They enter through the 6th Street Bridge there. And the thing. Anybody remember the thing? Scott Wilson does.
Them.
Yeah. Live and die in L.A.
Remember that?
Mostly having to do with cars. Kelly, this is showing all your transmission wires on the side of the river. I wanted to, but, you know. This is just movie clips on the river. He said a bad word there. I'm glad you didn't hear it.
You're reading lips, huh?
Yeah, you can read lips. Then he went up the Arroyo.
One time we went in the river in the car and we met the reporters from England.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
And SWAT landed a jet on the 6th Street Bridge without a permit. Oh, no.
Not much different than the Terminator, right?
Yeah, no, that's the closer. No, the closer is the Hyperion Bridge, but so there's so many. I think what we should do, Ed, is celebrate film in the river. There's the council chambers, believe it or not. A young Jack Nicholson, and there's John Ferraro when he first got on the council. God bless John's memory. I could say that because I work for John and I love John.
That was John?
No.
Okay. It didn't look like him.
I think this is the big Tahunga Wash, really, right up there. And here's the Terminator.
That's the one I was talking about.
Right, this poor kid gets saved.
They actually blew up a helicopter in Asian Park with no permits.
Mm-hmm. That's Robert Patrick. He lives in the district. Very nice guy. He's now starting the unit on TBS. And here comes Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Governor.
Yeah. This is the valley side of the river.
We're not banning a Brown Act now here, are we?
I don't think so. It's part of the report.
Okay, good.
These are all bridges, you see. It's part about the bridges.
I see it. I see
And then
the
this is the last. This
I
is
see the
great.
connectivity here.
Hyperion Bridge. I wanted to make it fun, you know.
That's great.
Where do they come? Well, there's a river in the background right there.
So you should have stayed on for each meeting.
Yeah, yeah. All right, thank you, Jill, for that. I'll get the
Okay.
speed up next time, but I just wanted to
Great.
add a little levity. Our foundation is here.
That's-
Thank you very much.
Omar, would you like to speak?
Yeah, just say what, from the River Foundation.
With the
Omar.
LA River Revitalization Corporation, we support the council member's motion to assist us in figuring out how to expedite as well as save costs for this project. Right now, our initial estimates are in about $5 million to complete this project. We have a donor that's willing to put up $4 million, so everything that we can do to save costs is going to be critical to making sure that this project happens.
Do you think the donor is willing to look at the notion of maintenance costs for the bridge?
No.
No. Okay.
But this is a river bridge that we wanted to build 20 years ago, and we couldn't get it. But much of the work that's been done from some aspect was done. It came about. We'll show you the book on it. And if we could schedule this in September, in between I'll have a better report. We'll work together where we'll meet with the departments. I know Mr. Garcetti's very supportive, and I see Mitch here, so.
I'm very supportive too. I just know that seeing how budget and finance and public work committees are broken down and how they look at the issue of the $200 million deficit we have now in the city, they'll be asking questions that I believe we should, in the spirit of making it happen, find out from the departments what they see as the cost issues, because they will be asked that question anyway. And if you can do that internally with Councilmember Lamage's staff and office and your work with your donor, if we can get those questions dealt with here, we'll leave in a much friendlier report, because you're going to run into those buzzsaws. I mean, just the nature of the city at this point.
Got it. We will, but we'll come back. We'll come back.
Great. Fantastic.
So that's what it's all about.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Omar.
Okay.
Thank you, Jill.
So any other questions on this item? Any other public comment cards on this committee, ma'am? None? Okay, thank you very much, folks. Thank you for your patience and your hard work. And let's keep the spirit going. Thank you, sir. This meeting is adjourned.